0.3. Where we playeth nothing but chance, and more chance. This are not thine elder matriarch station.
Forgot to unmute myself. Hello everyone. How's it going? Thanks for dropping by. I appreciate you being here. Title says we're going to be working on Golden Demon and some Cyber Savage. That is absolutely correct. I am doing a little bit of warm-up work just to get myself into the mindset and everything. So we're working a little bit on this Death Watch Marine for just a little bit, and then we'll get into the other stuff. But set ourselves up, get into the groove, get into the rhythm properly, right? Hope everyone's doing well on this wonderful Friday night. Let's take these off for a little bit here. How's everybody doing? Anybody doing any hobby tonight? Anybody get any hobby done today at all? Last day of the week, so I imagine a lot of people are still at work and getting off work and decompressing from that. I know I did a little bit today. But always look forward to being able to sit down and slap some paint down, just even for a couple of minutes. It is worth the time. Let's get right in that sweet spot, hopefully. All right. We're just working on this as a warm-up. We'll certainly get into the other projects we've been working on, including the Cyber Savage miniature, the last Cyber Savage miniature, here in a bit. But like I said, I think it's important to do some low impact warm-up. And that's what we're doing here. Yeah. How do I want to deal with that? I kind of want to expand this a little bit, just because I feel like the gap is too big. Expand this out. Just make that a little bit bigger. And we got a little bit of blending we can do up here. I do need to start working on the gold on this guy fairly soon. That'll be fun. There's a lot of cool gold pieces on him. We've got most of the steel, most of the black armor, the glossy black armor done to a decent standard. I do need to start thinking about the base a little bit more and how the base is going to be painted. So maybe we'll work on that in the coming weeks. I am not going to be live on Tuesday. I have a business trip I'm heading out on Sunday, and I'll be returning late Wednesday. So I will not be here on Tuesday. for our normal stream time. Just a heads up. I'll put that in the Discord as well. It's just as a heads up to everybody. I want you to show up and not realize that I'm not, without realizing I'm not going to be there. But it's just for a couple of days, and then we'll be back and should be live on Friday, assuming everything goes well. No major problems pop up. Okay, so let's see. So this is the base that we've made for him, and he's kind of going to be like this on the base. And this isn't for a competition or anything. This is just for me to practice making bases, especially display bases and getting them smooth and things like that. But I do want to put this in kind of a combat on a Tau world, and I'd like to work in more lighting effects on him, like maybe a fire or something like that. But I'm not sure how to do that because I didn't paint him like he's at night. I would have had a lot more blue and a lot more directional light on him, and so fires aren't really going to show up very well on him. So we might just paint this up with some like smoke or something. We'll see. We'll see, but he's going to be right like that. Once we get that done. Now, where's his... Just put his backpack. Okay, so we need to work on his backpack a little bit here before we get too deep into anything else and get completely distracted. His backpack has got to have some work done. Start mapping things out. So, let's see. Let's get this guy on the back. So that angle. We're going to edge highlight most of these harder edges that are going to be pointed towards one of our sources of light or one of our viewing angles. The way I painted him is with 4 different viewing angles in mind, just to try and make him. So the first viewing angle is here, so we're assuming that the light's coming from up top. And so we've got our highlights placed right there so that people can see them. And then the next viewing angle is here. And so we've got the highlights on this side here and the other highlights hidden. Each set of highlights is painted with a specific viewing angle in mind, and then also hiding the highlights from the other viewing angle to help stop like confusion. The backpack's going to be a little bit more complicated, and then our other viewing angle is here. So we are thinking about this in terms of light coming from at least 3 different directions, and rendering that on the backpack, since it's very flat and it's going to be kind of difficult to get each one of those viewing angles to render, but also not show up the other highlights from the other angles. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know if that made sense or not. I'm kind of rambling at the moment. I've got way too much paint on this. Now, the only way to get really thin, smooth edge highlights is to make sure you don't have too much paint on your brush. It should be a very little amount of paint on your brush, and mostly unthinned. So we should be fairly thick paint, and then not thinned very much. Really helps things. So we've got some edge highlights there. Get an edge highlight here. Need to get it on this backpack too, or this side of the backpack. Okay. Now this is going to sit right about there, so that means that the top of the backpack is going to come up over the shoulders, so we need to make sure we highlight that, and the back of the backpack is obviously also going to be visible. So I'm going to here. I'm just kind of deciding where the highlight's going to, the initial highlight's going to appear on the backpack, knowing that the highlights, the light is coming from up top. I'm just kind of deciding where that is at the moment. So I'm gonna get some thicker paint because this is a little too watery at the moment. Yeah, it's flowing better. It's not too watery. What kind of brushes do you use for this? Right now I am using a Zim Series 3200 Kolinsky sable. It's a number 3. But I have a bunch of Kolinsky sables, and honestly the vast majority of my painting is done with really cheap synthetic brushes with golden tack-on bristles. I get those by I buy those off of Amazon and other things like that. But when I'm trying to do like more delicate detailed work, then I'll break out my Kolinskys. But I have them from a bunch of different manufacturers. I'm actually waiting on some from a new manufacturer that I found just to test them out. Because I like testing out brushes, and I'm blessed enough to be able to do that fairly consistently. Just because I like to know what's out there, and I like to be able to give people recommendations. So right now I'm using Zim, and they're pretty solid. They're made in the United States, and they're also made in Germany. I've used Rosemary and Company. Those are good. I've used Raphael Series 8404s. I've used Da Vinci's. Or is it Da Vinci the 8404? I've used Artist Opus. I've used Monuments. I've used Game Envies. I like Monument and Game Envy for hobby brushes. For brushes for the hobbyist. Artist Opus are not bad. Artist Opus are not bad at all. They're pretty good, but they do tend to be a little bit more spendy. So they're not necessarily for the budget conscious painter or wargamer. And really, Kolinsky sable brushes are nice, but they are not necessary. But they are nice. Hey, that Chai Cat, how are you doing? Happy Friday to you as well. So right now I'm kind of mapping out where I think these highlights are going to be from each angle. And then we'll intensify them as we get closer in. We'll also obviously make them brighter as we go in. Not too bad. Painting up some nids, trying to go quick to have some tokens for a kill team mostly. Nice. Very cool. Yeah, Deathwatch Power Pack. Here is the Deathwatch Marine himself. This is the mini of the month for, I think, a couple months ago. A month or two ago. So we're working on him. And then now we're working on his backpack. Trying to replicate the glossy armor, the glossy black armor look. But also, you know, there are certain parts that'll be non-metallic. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, I actually very much enjoy non-metallic metal. It's very satisfying to work on it and then look at it from one angle. It's like, yeah, that looks metallic. That's really cool. It's very satisfying. It's a lot of work. But it feels good. Feels real nice. Now I'm finding the areas that I think are going to be like full metallic and not just glossy or kind of a glossy black, and I'm base coating those in blue black because that's the base coat I use for steel type colors for non-metallic metal. I like the way blue steel looks in non-metallic. I think it reads to me more like steel or iron when it's got a blue tinge to it rather than gray. Gray can look good. I just have a really hard time getting gray to look right to my eyes. Blue-gray, I have a much easier time getting it to look more like metallic in my eyes. I don't know what it is. I'm not doing something right. Optical trick is so cool. It's just like that crazy glow effect that people do. Yeah, OSL, so much of miniature painting really is optical illusions, and especially when you get into like display level or competition level, it's so much more of it is optical illusions rather than what's actually on the model. It's really fascinating. It's a lot of fun. Also very, very hard. So it's why I'm not terribly high up on a competitive scale, because it is a lot of work. It is a lot of fun. Okay, let's see what else is going to be. Trying to decide what else is going to be kind of a steel color. So the way I look at this guy is that he's an infiltrator, right? Like he's not your normal space marine. He's a kind of a comms guy. He's an infiltrator. So I don't want tons of stuff to be like really reflective, but also this is kind of setting up the pattern of how I'm going to paint the rest of the, or at least a lot more of the Death Watch. So I have to kind of think of like, okay, well, how much is flashy and how much is like dull for security's sake. And if I was a real marine player, that'd be like, it's all flashy. Look at the Blood Angels. They're just bright red. They're like the Red Baron in World War I. Baron von Richthofen is like, come at me, bro. I am bright red. That's what the Blood Angels are. That's what the Lamenters are. That's what the Blueberries are. That's what the Ultramarines are. Space Marines are just kind of out there like, look, you know we're here. We know we're here. Let's do this. What's OSL? That glow effect that you're talking about, the OSL is called object source lighting. So the idea is, let's go to my golden demon piece real quick. The idea is if there is a light source here, that you can paint the light, the glow of the light around it, as if this is the source of the light. So, and it's casting a glow all around it. That's called object source lighting. You can do that with lights. You can do that with like magical swords, spells, fires, things like that. So what you described with that glow effect, that's what that is. It's called OSL, or object source lighting, is the full name. Lighting, not lightning. Lighting. That's my bad. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not terribly good at OSL. I really need to lean into it a little bit more and give it more of a shot. Like, I've got pretty good command of how light reacts to different shapes and volumes, like different geometric shapes, and how it'll cast around and everything. Thanks to like non-metallic metal and stuff like that. But actually getting the glow right, making it look right, that's something I'm still working on. It's not terribly easy, because you have to think about it as like, okay, how bright is this light? Okay, so the brightness of the light is going to determine how bright how bright of paint I use, and then it's also going to determine how far does the glow go. Because if it's just like a candle, and your miniature is in daylight, well, that's not going to create a glow at all, right? There's no glow from a candle when it's in daylight. You just see the fire, and that's it. There's no glow. But as soon as it goes to evening, or as soon as it goes to like twilight, or just full night, well, then obviously there's a glow there, because the surrounding light is much less. So you kind of have to decide, okay, how bright like what time of day is it? How bright is this light? If I was gonna do like an LED lamp, like that's on some cars that just blinds you as you're driving down the road, okay, yeah, that's gonna be pretty bright even in daylight, but nowhere near as bright as it is on at night. So there's OSL has a little bit more you got to think about, because it's all relative. And that's what makes it kind of challenging for my brain. It's a lot more to think about, a lot more variables. If you want to be accurate. If you're just going for vibes, then yeah, do whatever you want. And I like going for vibes, but I also like understanding how something and why something works. So I don't always go for vibes, because vibes don't make my question asking brain happy. I need to know why something works, not just how it works or that it does. I really need to know, okay, well why do my eyes do this? Why is this optical illusion working? Otherwise it's very dissatisfying. So for instance here, I am slowly increasing the intensity, and see, that's the thing, it both is and it's not, because you can absolutely trick the human eye with some simple stuff, but also the human eye can see a lot of stuff that other things don't. Like optical illusions is just one thing. Monet created, the optical illusion of mixed colors on his paintings, in some of his paintings, by putting two like primary colors right next to one another, and from far enough away the human eye visually blended those together into the secondary color. So if he put like red and yellow right next to one another as two tiny little dashes, if you stood far enough back, your eye would start to see them as orange when you looked at the painting. And then that's the visual blending, and you know that's something the human eye does fairly easily. But then you try to present a human brain or a human eye with something that's not quite done correctly, and it can see it. That's why like so many of our models just look weird, or we're not satisfied with them. It's because they don't quite look right, and we don't have the optical illusion just right. And our brains are like, yeah, something's wrong. This isn't right. It's like that uncanny valley type of effect too. But you're right. It's figuring out, okay, what's enough to trick the human eye. What's enough to get it to see what I want it to see, and how do I achieve that in a reasonable manner. I could spend 10 hours working on a blend, but that's not necessarily a really reasonable use of my time, right? I've got other things that I need to paint. There's got other sections of the models I need to work on, so I can't just spend all that time just painting that one thing. So if I can figure out an efficient way to trick the eye in a fairly quick way, then we're getting to it. We're getting to the heart of it. What do you do when you make a mistake? Just paint over it with the original color? Yeah, generally. Or you just learn to minimize the mistake and just like, okay, well, I went too far here. So I'll go back in with my other colors and reblend it. So let's say that I'm working on this model, right? And I'm going in with a brighter color here, and I accidentally sneeze. Well, that's not right? That's wrong. So what are some things that I can do? I could go over it in black all over again, which might be the easiest thing to do, assuming I can find my black. Where'd I put my black? It's here. Nobody stress out. It's here. Found it. So I could do this. I could paint over that whole ooh, excuse me. I could just do black all over that again, and then it won't be, then I just start over. Or another thing that I could do is I could come in here with some black, and I can just come in here and just take out the parts that I know I don't want that color to be there, and now we've got a smaller area, so it's a little bit less for me to have to fix, and I'm not having to fix the rest of that blend. No, you didn't make me do anything. You didn't make me do that. I decided to because of the shock value. I decided to do that because it helps people to see that mistakes that look catastrophic are fixable. And that is a lesson I learned from another painter.
Like to renew their membership.
I learned, hey, Waldo's, how are you doing? Thank you so much. We'll get you your library card here in just a second, get you that renewal. I learned this from another painter here on the internet. And he was painting this big, beautiful wizard's bust, the head of a wizard. And somebody asked him, like, well, what do you do when you make a mistake? And he's like, okay, well, he just took some bright blue and did right in the middle of this leather this leather hat, and I was freaking out, like, oh my god, what was going on? And then he just fixed it. He just took them through the process of fixing it, and that's what I'm doing. I'm taking his advice and his thing because that's stuck in my head. I watched him mess up catastrophically, and then I watched him recover it, and I learned from that. So if I can do that, I unashamedly stole that from James Wapple. Unashamedly. Because it is shocking, it is impactful, and people learn from it. They see that, like, oh, even something that's just awful is fairly easy to fix if I just take my time and figure out, okay, what do I need to keep and what do I need to fix? So there we go. Now, I was thinking about taking like some teal and just, or some purple and putting it on there, but that seemed like it'd be a little forced. Also, I would have to repaint the whole thing because I can't keep blue or teal in here and keep the same effect. So I'd have to completely recolor everything. So I thought that might be a little much. So we just went with the with one of the colors that's actually on there. But this is all fixable. It's all fixable. I think one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten too, I think from you too, is that no brushstroke is permanent. Can always repaint, push color out, because yes, every brushstroke is recoverable. You cannot ruin your model unless you are like physically damaging the model. It cannot be ruined. Every paint stroke can be done. You can use isopropyl alcohol and strip the paint off, or simple green, or what have you. You can strip the paint off the miniature. None of this is permanent unless you actually like physically alter the model. That's the only way it would be ever be permanent. Yeah, and that was another piece of advice I stole from everybody. See, you get the secret. The secret to miniature painting and a lot of this stuff, whether it's miniature painting or if it's any other form of art or anything like that, is unashamedly steal ideas and concepts and techniques and things from other people. That's how it works. All right, Waldo's, here is your library, your membership card to the Great Library. Thank you again for your continuing support. I appreciate that. Let's get you your stamp. Boom. Look at that. Look at that. It's beautiful. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. The light's a little overexposing. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. If you can't see anything, don't worry about it. It's a magical stamp. Only wizards can see. Wizards, warlocks, all the magical users who come to the Great Library, only they can see it. Students can see it, but if you just stick around long enough, maybe do some reading. Don't have to do anything really intense, and you'll be able to see it too. I promise. Until now, just know that it is gorgeous. It is beautiful. The team that works on all the stamps and everything have done yet a wonderful job once again. Let's flip this upside down so I can get underneath here and repaint that. Boop. Then we'll use this color to kind of stipple around here to try and smooth out a little bit of this color shift to get it to blend a little bit. I do have some water on my brush so that the paint is thinned out. It's not just straight paint, but it is a little thinned out. Come in here and just add that in a little bit. Let's see. Hey dude, I just started painting and just finished my first marine, but it was one you push together, not glue. With the glue one, should I paint the parts before gluing? No, not necessarily. No, especially if they're not the push together type. There's no reason to paint them ahead of time. Some people do, just to make sure they get into the they can get into the hard to reach areas. So that's called sub-assemblies, where you're partially assembling the model. But I don't usually use those. This is one situation where I did. I kept the backpack off, and I actually kept the head separate as well, because I wanted to be able to get to all the nooks and crannies on the head. Same thing with the backpack. I want to be able to get to all the nooks and crannies. But the rest of the model I assembled, and then I primed it and I painted it assembled. So, that's just one example. Here's another example of another piece that I want to do. This is a fantasy model, but it's from the slaves, the Warriors of Chaos for the old world. So you can see here I've got her completely assembled. Got her shield on her back and everything, but I've got her flail separate. That way I can get to both the front and back, and I also have her head separate, so I can get to her hair and everything here. And then once I get some most of the paintwork done, I'll glue those both onto the model, and then I'll be able to finish up the paint jobs. I'll be able to clean everything up. So I don't necessarily recommend that you sorry, I just punched my microphone, that you paint things completely unassembled. I don't think that works. Yeah, it kind of depends on the pieces and how difficult they're going to be to reach. That comes with experience. So right now, you said you've got the Crusade Squad Black Templars. I don't think they have too many hard to reach areas. I haven't built that, but I'm trying to remember what they look like in my head. I don't think they have too many hard to reach areas. So I might keep their heads separate and paint those separately, just for ease of access. If any of them have guns that are across their chest, I might keep that separate, but it's not necessary. You don't have to, especially at this stage when you're brand new. It's more important that you assemble the models cleanly, and that you work on learning how to avoid things like gaps in the model, things like that. That's more important at the moment. But whatever you decide you want to focus on, there is nothing wrong with doing a little bit of a sub-assembly, and there's nothing wrong with assembling the model entirely. They're wonderful painters that do both. It really kind of depends on what your personal workflow is going to end up being, because everybody works slightly differently, and that's a good thing. It means there's always something to learn from somebody else, because they're going to do it differently than you. Do you print your minis yourself? No, I don't have a 3D printer, so if I do have a printed model, I buy it from like Etsy, or I have a friend print it. Like this is a printed model I picked up from a buddy. But these are plastic kits. These are kits from Games Workshop. And yeah, I'm in the PDX area, and I did in fact pick this up from Ian at the Tannisborn store. Yeah, Ian's good people, in my experience, and I've known him for a few years, just going into the GW store. I used to live out Aloha way about 10 years ago. In fact, I was at Rainy Day Games just today, or Guardian Games Aloha now. I was there earlier today. And Tammy's Hobbies. Did a little hobby run. Picked up some paint. Oh, that's very cool, Diecast. That's awesome. I find partial assembly often helps me paint into recesses much easier. Yes, yeah, it absolutely can. 100%. I just started painting minis and debating getting a 3D printer. I mean, if you're going to use it for other things as well, that's probably going to be, fine. Just be aware that 3D printers, especially resin 3D printers, are a whole nother hobby in and of themselves. That's a whole new set of things to learn and set of things to keep in mind and figure out while you're also, exploring the hobby of miniature painting. There's nothing wrong with doing both at the same time. Just be aware that you will be doing both at the same time if you want to print your minis. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're aware. That's one of the reasons why I don't have a 3D printer. Is at this time, I don't really want another hobby that I have to troubleshoot. But if I had a space for a resin printer, I probably would have one because it's just so useful for miniature painters, especially people who teach classes. But I don't have space for it that I feel comfortable having a 3D printer because it's still incredibly toxic. Like the resin is very, very toxic. If you're gonna get a 3D printer, you need PPE. You need to be wearing goggles. You need to be wearing gloves. People have lost swaths of their skin by letting resin cure in their pores, and it gets infected, and they've lost parts of their hands. They've got resin in their eyes and gone partially blind or entirely blind. The resin is not a friendly, happy substance. It is incredibly dangerous and incredibly toxic. So just be careful and you'll be fine. Don't be dumb. Don't take risks. Use personal protection. But the utility is huge. The utility is of a 3D printer is massive. I am always sorely tempted to just figure out how I could support one, but I have to talk myself out of it every single time because it's like, look, you just don't have a place where it's going to be safe. Because my painting studio is also my office for working from home, and my cat can come in here. I don't need her, jumping onto the 3D printer because she's going to do that. Well, I couldn't help but notice you're not painting Iron Warriors. I am not painting Iron Warriors yet, my Lord Primarch. I am not. I am actually more of a son of Logar than I am of your legion. As honorable and wronged as it was by the Imperium. But yes, I am not currently painting Iron Warriors. I hope to soon. That the new Iron Warrior, that new Warsmith, looks incredible. Yeah, Ian is a good guy. Ian's a really good guy. Don't look, everybody. We have a full-on Chaos Primarch in the chat. Everyone on your best behavior. Buy a whole with a lot of minis on Etsy for what a printer costs while you explore painting too. Yeah, that's true. Do you always sub-assemble? Or would you sub-assemble for regular intercessors? Probably not. Like this guy. This is a Firstborn Space Marine. I didn't sub-assemble him. But I also wasn't trying to paint him to a really high level. Let's see... Like this guy was not a sub-assembled, but you see how open his stance is? I didn't need to sub-assemble this. What's the chapter sigil? Okay, so a little history lesson. In the very, very first edition of Warhammer 40,000, first, I think 1987, there was a list of chapters, and many of those chapters don't officially exist anymore as full-on chapters, but things like the Blood Angels, the Space Wolves, they still exist. So this is back when the lore was very, very new, and it's going to go through tons of retcons in between 1987 and today. This chapter was known as the Rainbow Warriors, and they were named such after a Greenpeace ship called the Rainbow Warrior was torpedoed by the French government, and a member of the crew died from that explosive attack, that torpedo attack. And so this was a chapter of Space Marine that was added into Warhammer 40k, most likely as a political protest, because it was a bunch of 80s sci-fi geeks and punks who started Games Workshop. So political activism is a thing. This is a modernized version of their paint scheme. If you want to get an idea of like what we know about the Rainbow Warriors in the modern times, Rogue Hobbies on YouTube, her very first video was on the Rainbow Warriors and her history, and this is her paint scheme. This is the paint scheme she came up, which is a slightly altered one for them. But I'm working on painting one of every lieutenant, every mark of power armor as a Rainbow Warrior lieutenant with crystalline swords. So here we've got our Mark 10 lieutenant, and you can see he's got a crystalline sword there, and we kind of painted it in pastels for the crystal. And then we've got this Mark 2 lieutenant. I've got several others that are in works. We've got Mark 4. And there's not a huge amount about their lore. There's really nothing. So it's left up to most people, like what their lore is. The lore that I use, and my headcanon lore, is that they were not an initial founding, but a founding after the Horus Heresy, and they were founded out of both a combination of Ultramarines and the few remaining loyalist Thousand Sons. And they were granted, as part of the Codex Astartes, they were granted the homeworld Prism, which you can find on Imperial maps, and that is actually the homeworld of the original Rainbow Warriors. You can still find it on Galaxy maps, but it's labeled record deleted or redacted. So it's still there. And so my headcanon is that this is a chapter that was established using loyalist Ultramarines and remaining loyalist Thousand Sons. Prism is a sun-bathed world with lots of greenery and jungle, but also massive rare minerals in it that generated and grew huge clumps of crystals that burst through the jungle floor and reflect light, but they're also psychoactive or very energetic. And so both the power swords, the flamers, the plasma weaponry, specifically the plasma weaponry, power swords, force swords, they all use crystal-based technology as part of their focusing. So the blades are crystals. The plasma weapons use crystals within their power cores and focusing of the plasmic energy. And that's just an excuse to be able to paint the plasma as a rainbow as well. And it's not like the full rainbow or anything like that. It's just a few different colors, and even the rainbow on the Rainbow Warriors is actually not the prismatic rainbow by any means. So I'm just having fun with it. Just having fun with it. Thanks, appreciate that. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big Thousand Suns fan as well. That was my very first army. When I started playing in 5th edition, I was playing Chaos Space Marines, and I played Thousand Suns. Now, this is before they had their own codex. There was only the Space Marine codex. The Thousand Suns there was a single entry called a Thousand Sun. It was a single type of Marine. And the other types of Marines were obviously like, Khorne Berserker and Noise Marine and Death Guard. There was just one of each one. They didn't have their own codexes at that time. It was a very long time before they had their own codexes. So, I just had fun with it. Yeah. What Traitor Legion do you think was the most valid in Rebellion? I know it's not Necromunda. Hey, no worries. No, that's fine. The most valid? Oh boy. Honestly, I think the word bearers were fairly valid. I think the world eaters were fairly valid, or at least Angeron's rebellion was pretty justified. Logar was kind of mopey, but I think he was pretty justified. The least justified, I honestly think the least justified was Fulgrim. He's just a bitch. He's just like, I didn't get my way. I wanted to be perfect. Whereas Logar's more like, I've done everything for Dad. He fits everything about a god, and yet he's punishing me for treating him the way that a god should be treated. And yeah, there's a little bit of mopiness there too, but not to the. I think he's got more of a valid reason for losing it than Fulgrim did. Fulgrim really didn't have a reason. Perturabo, I think, had a pretty good reason. Even though he just like stood there and didn't stand up for himself until he just lost it and rebelled. But also I think that a huge part of this is it's the Emperor's fault. The Emperor built tools, and he sees them ultimately as tools, not as people. He sees all of humanity that way. Humanity is not an end of itself. It is the means to an end. Like he wants to cut off the warp from the galaxy so that humanity, a future humanity, not the existing humanity, a future humanity can be safe without the influence of the warp. But he'll sacrifice everything about humanity to get there, which at that point is, what's the point? What's the point of being human if there's nothing about humanity left? So, yeah, the voices told me it was cool. Yeah, basically. basically. Yes. Yeah, no, I think Angeron was... I think out of all of them, I think Angeron as a Primarch was the most justified. I think as his Legion, maybe not as much. But the Legion, I think the Word Bearers were the most justified, honestly. But even though Logar was kind of mopey about it, the Thousand Suns, I would say the Thousand Suns were pretty justified as well. All right, we got ads starting in about 30 seconds, so we're going to take a 3 to 5 minute break when those start. We won't be doing any painting during any of that, so you're not going to lose any, you're not going to miss anything, so just stick around if you want to. You don't have to. I appreciate it if you do, but we're gonna set this aside, and when we get back, we're gonna start working on the Golden Demon a little bit, and then the Cyber Savage Mini. We'll start work on that. So we're gonna take a 3 to 5 minute break. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Yeah, sorry, Sonny. Didn't mean to go on break just as you got here, but it do happen. I actually decided we're gonna go straight into the Cyber Savage mini because I want to get that done, so that I can get those back to the Cyber Savage guys. So for those of you who don't know, Cyber Savage is a pretty sweet. It's a pretty sweet small scale miniatures game that is set in kind of a almost a He-Man and the Masters of the Universe type of settings. It's got that kind of feel of those that era of cartoons. It's got that kind of aesthetic to it as well. So here's a couple of Cyber Savage minis. It's where lasers and sorcery and, you know, you could be a space barbarian who's got a laser rifle and fighting cultists with magical daggers, or, you know, something kind of that kind of feel. And these are some of the miniatures for Cyber Savage. You can see we're kind of going for that kind of color scheme, not your normal color scheme, but kind of a crazy Saturday morning cartoon of the old variety type of color scheme here. And this is the last one that we're gonna do. I think I'm gonna do her in green and pink for the armor. I think we're gonna do pink. I mean, not for the armor, for the weapon. So green for the armor, kind of going up into a bright green, and then pink for the weapon, I think. So I want something that is bright, but also I think I'm gonna like the way that the green and the pink will work together. But well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. So we're gonna start out with a really dark green, black green. And I've been painting these as if they're all lit from up top and maybe a little off to the side. Just trying to get some basic colors in here. Maybe we won't do pink. Gotta decide on what else we can do. I've already done red. I don't really want to do red again. And I also don't want her to look like a Christmas tree. Could go blue for the. I might go blue for the weapon. The weapon color is also the color I used to paint her her undersuit. And the loincloth, the butt cloth she's got behind her. Blue might work. Let me think. But they're both cool. That means they're both cool colors. That means they're not going to have a temperature contrast. Although we did do, yeah, I think we may do that because that's fine. We did orange and purple for one. Those are both warm colors, and then we did purple and yellow accents. Those are both warm colors. So we might do. We've done one that is teal, kind of a teal color, and red, and that's a cold and warm mix. So we might do blue and green. That might be cool. We'll see. Let's just get the green. Let's get all this green down. I'm using my one of my synthetic brushes, and that's mostly what I'll use on most of this model, because it allows me to paint quickly. Allows me to paint very, very quickly. I think we'll give her red hair. Make her a redhead. Kind of an auburn. Every time I drop in a runa board, it takes every ounce of me to fight the urge to buy the Workrow orcs. Yeah, I totally understand that. I've got some of the Workrow stuff, the original starter, and I think that's it. I've yet to actually break that stuff out, but the models look really cool. I just don't know anything about the game, but the models look awesome. I've been looking at the newer starter set with the other human faction, like the pure human faction, I think it is, and the kind of like the bone people, the body horror people. I don't know what they're called, but that looks pretty cool too. All right, let's go to our first kind of mid-tone / highlight. Because this dark green is very much kind of our shadow color, so we're gonna go pretty strong with this mid-tone and just leave the shadow in the shadows as much as possible. And again, I'm being kind of sloppy. I'm not being really refined or precise here, because this doesn't need to be refined and precise. It's going over a lot of space. So I don't need to be careful. I don't need to be really deliberate. It's covering up everything except for the shadows. That's pretty, and the shadows are pretty easy to avoid. And it's the deepest shadows that we're avoiding. We can add in more shadows later if we need to. If we find that we removed too many of them, that's fine. That's fairly easy to do. At this point, I'm just trying to get color in. And I find that getting color down really quickly helps me visualize a little bit better what the end result is going to be, because I can see what the color's doing. I can see, you know, like, does it look all right on that piece? No, let's stop focusing on that. We'll go work on something else. But also mapping out all these colors just gives me a better idea of, do I really like this? Do I want shadows here, or do I want mid-tone here? Like, what do I want to do? So I do encourage you to at least try just sketching out ideas and work that out on the model. Because, again, you're not going to ruin the model by painting it. You can always paint over anything, any mistakes or anything you end up not liking. That's fine. That's the point. That's A-okay. Yeah, agreed. Their wizard sculpts, especially, yeah, they're very nice. Very, very nice. Is anybody working on anything tonight? Any hobby going on this wonderful Friday night? You know, it doesn't have to be miniatures. It could be anything you're working on. Anything creative. Reading a book. Doing fiber art. Painting anything. Writing. Just chilling, relaxing. All those are legitimate. What's everybody up to? Anybody found any new good book series? I just finished Shrubbly the Monster Adventurer, the only 2 books that are out for it right now, and I'm eagerly waiting more. It's a very, very fun series. Very adorable as well. Nice, low impact, not you know, no high stakes or anything really. Just very enjoyable. I like those. I like having that kind of vibe in at least some of my books. I don't want it to be world-ending, world-shattering, emergency after emergency. That can just be that can be a lot. It can be a lot. And if it's all the time, it's just too much. It's like I'd like to relax. And relax every now and then too. So I try to find those funny, lovable characters as well. Spinning Friday with Ulrich the Slayer. Very nice. Vintage Wizard. Welcome, fellow wizard. Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Ulrich the Slayer is a worthy model. Absolutely. You know, I almost bought a TIE Fighter scale kit today. I was looking at it, was like, it'd be pretty cool to build a TIE Fighter. But I have so many other models and other miniatures I need to paint. I really don't need to start into any kind of scale modeling. But I've always loved TIE Fighters. I've always loved Star Wars TIE Fighters. I was hoping they, if they had like a TIE Interceptor kit there at the store I was at, I probably would have left with it. They had a normal TIE Fighter kit, so I was like, it's still really tempting, but it's not an Interceptor. That would have clinched the deal. Or if it was like a TIE Advanced or Vader's TIE Fighter, really anything other than a standard TIE Fighter. As much as I like the regular TIE Fighter, I really wanted to do something a little bit more of the specialized fighter. Now, if it was the TIE Defender, I would have just lost it. I would just be like, yep, alright, we're doing this. Or one of the droid TIE Fighters from Dark Empire. Oh man, I don't even think they've ever made models for those. Those are so niche. They're not even canon anymore. The World Devastators. Those were crazy cool. Okay, so we can set that down. Let's take a look at the feasibility using blue. It's hitting everything on this weapon with dark blue. Come in here with a mixture of regular blue and dark blue just to get a kind of mid-tone there. Hit the ribbed part of her undersuit here with some mid-tone. And the outside of her loincloth butt flap thingy. A teeny bit darker. Use this as mid-tone, so we'll just keep this on everything except the shadow. And then we'll do the same thing on each of these straps, but I want to keep them a little distinct from one another, so I'm going to keep the darker in between them. I think I need to redo that a little bit, so we'll get a really fine brush here, fine detail brush, and use that darker blue to dark line underneath each one of these straps for the handle, just so that they are separated out a bit visually, because even though we're going for the same colors everywhere, it's gotta have some visual difference between them all. Okay, so next is the scythe blade, which we're going to have light up here, and then main highlight's going to be here, a little bit here. We'll have some here. We're going to do blue non-metallic metal here, and then this is kind of a cyber blade, so we'll just edge highlight here. So the cutting edge is what's going to be non-metallic metal. The rest of this is going to be basically just tech. Go straight blue here. I'm going to reintroduce some of this dark blue right along this edge, just so there's some separation, some visual separation here. I'm probably going to have to do this a couple of times, but I do want a visual break there. Now for the rest of this, I think having some blue wood grain in this would be pretty cool. Kind of sell it as still an organic piece, but it's alien wood. Itchy nose. What do you guys think about the green and blue? Oh, it looks a little weird, but I don't think it looks terrible. I don't think it's clashing. I could be wrong though.
A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. Nor is he early. He arrives
Precisely what it means to. Spark Minis! How's it going? Thank you so much for the raid.
A magical disease called attention deficit disorder.
This is true. This is most likely true.
Very unique wizard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Unfortunately, it will not make you suitable for the Muggle world.
I have noticed that.
They expect you to show up on time and remember small
It's very inconvenient.
And sometimes I know that's a struggle.
It is. It is. I appreciate the fact that you understand that about me. Thank you. Thank you. Spark Minis, how are you doing? How was your stream? Welcome on in. Dan Grab, thank you for redeeming that. We've got other fun sounds.
Welcome to the Great
little
Library.
things for people to redeem as well. If you're ever interested in having some fun there. What did you work on today, Spark Minis? How did the stream go? Were you still working on your golden demon? I'll show you mine. This is my golden demon entry. This is what I'm working on. 49 hours contributed. Excellent. This is what I did last year, and I've just been refining it. So doing a lot more refining work, incorporating a lot more of the feedback that I got, and redoing a couple of things. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping to at least do as well as I did last year. We'll see. But I'm also painting these miniatures for a game called Cyber Savage. We've already done 3 of them out of the group of 4. So here's one. Here's another. Here's another. And yeah, trying to get these done so I can get these back to the creators. Best of luck. Thank you. You too. I'm very happy with the colors so far. They are cool minis. They are indeed. They are the Matriarchs of Orion, I think is the name of them. The whole idea of Cyber Savage is it is a skirmish game where you can use just about any minis you want, but the minis they designed and kind of the world they designed is think He-Man and the Masters of the Universe mixed in with like Judge Dredd. Or AD 2000 like levels of grim. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. You use a lot of converted models. They've got their own models, but the whole idea is to convert your models as much as possible, or use whatever models you want in the games. I haven't painted him yet, but I built this guy for the Cyber Savage games that I was running, or I was in. And we'll be painting him up eventually, but his name is Laser Fist. He has a giant fist that shoots lasers. It is a fun game with a fun rule set. And we're just painting up this last lady here with her scythe because I thought a scythe would be cool. You can see that we're kind of going with the type of laser sorcery color scheme that we used to get in, like, remember if you ever bought G.I. Joes when you were little, they always had like weird plastic color, like colored plastic for the different weapons and stuff like that. I'm kind of embracing that kind of vibe for these models, of like that kind of like almost toy vibe, but still trying to respect volumes and things like that as much as possible. Yeah, having a good night. I hope you're having a good night as well. Sounds like you had a good stream. 49 hours is quite a bit of time. How much longer do you think you're going to put into the minis? You're going to be doing it, working on it up until the very last moment, or are you going to call it at some point and work on something else for a little while? Are you submitting one thing, or are you submitting multiple things to the Golden Demon? I think I'm probably only going to be submitting this one thing. I don't think I have the time or the energy to do multiple, but who knows. We'll see. We'll see how things go. Alright, let's go back to work on the armor a little bit. Try and smooth some of this out. I don't work with green a whole lot, like pure green, so sometimes it doesn't lay down the way I'm expecting it to, which is something you have to keep in mind with and learn about, like a lot of different paints. Like sometimes red lays down and layers differently than blue does, and blue does it differently than yellow, obviously. Yellow's a pain in the rear. But green's doing that to me too. It's like I'm not expecting it to be streaky and it's going down streaky, and it's like I don't know if that's the paint. Obviously it's the paint, but I don't know if it's just the paint or if it's like also the transparency the consistency I have. I don't work with green very often, so there's some adjustment happening here, but that's how we learn. Let's see. That. A little bit of edge highlighting down here. How about anybody else? Anybody else working on things tonight? Had a couple people say they're working on a couple different things. Got a Space Wolf Ulrich the Slayer going on. Got some people working on other projects. Anybody else painting? Was anybody else painting on their Golden Demon with Spark, or working on any other projects? I very much enjoy hearing what people have been working on. And here in a little bit, we're going to take a look at the Discord and see what people have been working on and posting in my Discord as well. So I like showing that stuff off. But if you're working on anything, I'd love to hear about it. Or if you have links, we are link friendly. Yeah, working on Golden Demon diorama. Nice, Nitro. Very cool. Any are you willing to tell us a little bit about it? What kind of diorama? If not, that's perfectly fine. Sometimes it makes sense to keep things a little secret, a little secretive. That is a-okay. Age of Sigmar 4 setting with something like a Sacred Rune Circle. Ooh, that sounds awesome. That sounds very cool. I will look out for that at Adepticon, assuming that it's going to be at Adepticon. I don't know if you're talking about like a Golden Demon later in the year, maybe in Europe or something, but I hope to see it. I think that'll be pretty sweet. There's a Demon of Khorne chasing a halfling into the circle. Is a Lumineth Rune Wizard in the circle that's protecting the halfling. Yeah, that's a cool story. I like that. I'm looking forward to seeing that. That is a very, very cool story. Okay. There's Mercy. Oh, there we go. And that's the mahogany. Mahogany! We're going to see how she looks with red hair. Or auburn hair. Thanks, I'm excited about it. A lot of little details planned to support and tell the story. Fantastic. That is extremely ambitious. It's going to be awesome. Got a couple little stories that I'd like to tell in some of my Golden Demon pieces, but it's not going to be this year. Got one stuck in my head that I really want to do, but I've got some miniatures I need to source for it or figure out how to sculpt and repose. It's like it's not going to be a duel scene, so it'll be like a diorama, but it'll be the end of a duel where vengeance has been exacted. Much needed vengeance against a perfidious foe who has been a perfidious foe and betrayed us all the way back at the very first edition of Warhammer 40,000. truly a long-standing, bitter rivalry and enmity has built up. Sounds cool. Back to the rotators. Yeah. Have an amazing stream. Have to do post care. No worries. Have a wonderful night. Thanks for hanging out. It's like 7 inches square. Whew. That is pretty big. Yeah. What I want to do. Where'd he go? Is have this model or a similar model. Right here. Painted up as a rainbow warrior. And standing over a dead Sister of Battle or quasi Sister of Battle. I don't know if I'm going to make her a demon or not. Most likely make her demonic. But in the very first edition of 40K, there was an art piece of a rainbow warrior being gunned down by what wasn't named at the time, but is effectively a Sister of Battle or what appears to be one. But her name is Sister Sin. And his got a name on him. It's Brother Vermilion. So I'm going to have this guy standing there with his prismatic sword covered in blood or burnt blood, and then have some form of Sister Sin after post slaying on the ground, and it's going to have a title that says For Brother Vermilion. So it's a story of long overdue vengeance and retribution. I'm a fan of the Rainbow Warriors and what that Sister Sin did. Obviously, a cowardly attack against Brother Vermilion, a true and loyal son of the Emperor. Maybe kind of interesting if I could like make her look kind of like a Slaneshi model, like she's within the intervening years she's ascended to demonhood at some point in the service of Slanesh. Because I mean her armor in the book is fairly BDSM, spiky. And her name's Sister Sin. I'm like, that's not a normal Sister of Battle name. There's no way. No way she's an actual Sister of Battle. So we'll come up with some cultic background for her. Awesome. I did a figure kind of like that. Nightlar standing over a gutted Sister of Battle. Not the same without the backstory, but the point is it ended up looking really cool and dynamic with the body on the ground. Sounds like yours would be awesome. That sounds awesome. That sounds very cool. And the problem with mine is really only like old hammer enthusiasts and old heads are really gonna get it, and I'm okay with that. But if I could use it to like introduce some discussion of who the Rainbow Warriors were and a little bit of their history, I think that'd be cool. Plus, getting justice for Brother Vermilion. Justice for the brother! Not a whole lot of people know much about the Rainbow Warriors. Not that there's a whole lot to know about them in the lore at the moment. I don't know if there ever will be. I think it'd be really cool to have GW acknowledge them a little bit more maybe do something cool with their lore, but I don't anticipate it. I think they're flying a little close to the flame right now with the female custodies and stuff like that, which I do agree with. Like I'm 100% behind female custodies personally, but I think they may be flying a little close to the flame, and then to have reintroduce a Space Marine chapter called the Rainbow Warriors, that might set off a powder keg, even though there's really nothing pride associated with the original concept. It was a political thing about a Greenpeace ship that was torpedoed by the French government. There's nothing really pride focused about it. However, with the climate today, it would automatically be assumed to be. Which again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I don't think GW's gonna try and do that. As much as I think they would be cool. I agree. I like a lot of the older lore, while GW does a lot more volume of lore now. It does seem to focus around just a few primary characters. There's so many ideals they had back in the day that have never been fully explored. Yeah, that's very true. Quite true. We'll see. We'll see. I do appreciate the fact that they're using things like Necromunda and Kill Team and some of these smaller games to explore certain elements of the lore that or certain, factions or things like that just have kind of fallen by the wayside or haven't been covered recently or very well, like the Recruit Mercenaries. Like I believe they did a Recruit Kill Team and then came out with like the Recruit Army stuff, and I think that's cool. I could be wrong. I could be misrecalling that. I don't know if there is a Recruit Kill Team, right? Could be wrong. I may be thinking of the Beast Corps or the Beastmen. But I do like that they're exploring that a little bit more. I hope they continue. Like getting the new RBDs models, the Imperial Breachers, the Halflings, Vespids. Those are all really cool. Okay, so we're running into, this is starting to look a little too forced, so we're gonna have some variation entered in here in a couple spots, so that it's not so uniform in feel, in layout. Get a little bit of more natural variation based on the light.
You have a magical disease called attention deficit disorder.
Yes, I'm sure I do.
Very unique wizard.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, it will not make you suitable for the Muggle world.
I have noticed that.
They expect you to show up on time and remember small details.
It's very annoying.
And sometimes I know that's a struggle.
It's very annoying. Small details. If they were important, they'd be big details. Right? They'd be big details, and then because they're so big, they'd be stuck in my head. But because my head doesn't think they're a big detail, they just fall out. Okay? That's how it works. They were important, they'd be big, and they wouldn't fall out. Thank you, Marquis. Reminded me of the difficulties I have within the Muggle world. It is true. It's important to keep those at the forethought so that we can at the forefront of our minds, our shortcomings in the Muggle world, so we don't get overconfident as wizards and magic users. You know, there are things that the Muggle world has that we just can't really cope with, like paying attention to small details that aren't that big of a deal. I'm keeping magic in my head. That's a bigger deal than my dentist appointment, Stacy. That's starting to read a little bit more like flowing hair down her back. We'll let that that paint dry so it'll calm down. It'll fade out a little bit, and then we can look at doing more layers, getting a little bit more organic variation in somewhere where some of the shadows are and the like. Just because there is going to be natural variation there. We will continue to work on her hair, because once we start adding an orange to this, after we get this burnt orange in there, oh man, she's going to look amazing. She's going to look great. Get a little bit of highlight down here on the ends of her hair here, just because that's going to be a fairly thin spot that light will refract through a bit more. Thinner group of hair. Okay. I've got a break coming up here in just a couple of minutes. So we'll be taking a 3 to 5 minute break. Don't worry, nothing will be painted during that time. But we are going to take that break. Try to take a break every hour or so, just so that we can hydrate and have plenty of water, walk around a little bit so we're not just on our bum the entire night. That'll also give us some time to allow some of the paint to dry here. Just try to intensify these highlights just a little bit more, these little bits of hair. Get them a little bit more before we go in with a brighter orange, just because I don't want a giant jump from one to the other. Let's see. Anything else? Nope. Nope. A nice, relaxing, quiet Friday night. That is A-okay. I hope everyone's enjoying their time. Just relaxing. Lurking away, reading a book, working on your own projects. I hope you're having a wonderful time. It is a great time to relax at the end of the day. And I'm going to take a break in about a minute. Get some orange out here. Okay, let me finish this last little bit here and then we'll take our break. I don't want these sections to just end off in just like a curve or a sharp right angle or anything like that. I want them to try and end in kind of a messy end, just so that we've got some of that visual texture, like the hair is uneven. Alright, we're going to I'm going to take a break now. I encourage you to stand up, walk around, get some water, hydrate, use the restroom, whatever you got to do. Stand up, walk around, take care of your body. And we'll be back in about 3 to 5 minutes. Heading out. All right, Vintage Wizard. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you so much. Okay, we're back. Thank you for your patience. Ooh, I see fire tracks. Oh. That looks awesome. Very nice. That looks very cool, Nitro. Alright, let's keep working on this a little bit, and then we'll see about taking a look at people's stuff from the Discord. And we'll take a look at Nitro so everybody can see that if they haven't. A very cool piece. I think we need to make her certain parts of her hair a little bit bigger. It's some more midtones in certain areas. This is where the learning comes in. It's just really long hair can be difficult to figure out exactly how much mid-tone to put in, how wide should the highlight and the mid-tones be. Stuff like that can be a little bit more difficult with long flowing hair. But that's part of the learning process. That's how we get better. It's like, okay, I need more. It needs to be more mid-tone, more highlight, smaller shadow. But you always want the shadow to be dark because this hair is very reflective. Hair is highly reflective, so you got to keep some of the principles of non-metallic metal in your head. Dark shadows, bright highlights. That makes things look shiny, but also certain ratios of dark to light that help make things look shiny or just bright. You could have some really dark shadows and really bright highlights, but then because you've got so much mid-tone, it could just look like you've painted a really bright matte material. Because the highlight is the mid-tone and highlight becomes very diffuse, and that does not indicate a shiny surface. A shiny surface's highlights are not diffuse; they are fairly sharp in terms of their transition from one color to another. Yeah, that's a pretty rough book. It's hopefully not something any of us are going to have to deal with. But information is good. Yeah, I need to work in some more variation in there. It's a little overly, it seems a little overly uniform for her hair. Maybe getting some more separation between a couple of these things will help. Alright, that's pretty good for now. Let's go take a look at the Discord and see what people have been posting. Okay, we're going to start out with our some works in progress. I think we looked at this one. We might have looked at this one last time. But for Space Marine, it's very cool. Love the pose with the heavy bolt pistol, drawing the blade. Got the Infernus over, swung at the hip. That looks really cool. Here's an updated. I believe this is an updated picture with a little bit more work. Very nice. Got some weathering on the tip of the Infernus weapon. I don't remember what it's called. The fire weapon. It's a kind of flamer. A little bit more intense, I believe. But got some more work on them. It's looking very nice. Still like the pose. Very dynamic. Very cool. Pikmin is Sinjin has updated us with the frameable he's been painting. This is a frameable from Monument Hobbies. It's very cool. And a frameable is a flat piece of cast resin with an embossed, like a half of a miniature like on the front of it. So it's the front half. So this is meant to be put in a frame, but it's meant to be painted first, so you can see how some of this comes out in front of the frame here. And this is really, really cool. Look at those eyes. That is creepy AF. There's the whole piece. He added some tentacles here, some barnacles on the frame. I don't think the frame comes with the piece. I could be wrong. I thought the whole thing just came with the front flat piece with the half miniature, but the frame might be part of the whole thing as well. But it looks awesome. That is very cool. Okay, I've got my screen share up. Let's take a look at completed projects. All right, got this ballerinas 3D printed by Dig Batty. That's very nice. That's very pretty. I really like the gold. I like the articulation for the joints. Make it look like a porcelain doll. The purple is gorgeous. It's a very, very pretty purple. Yeah, she's really small. That's really, really pretty. Really nice. I like the hair. Doing the kind of halo hair effect. It's good. Get those reflections. And we've got a Nurgle Knight. Very cool. Look at all these. Now this is not, I believe this is an actual full-on conversion. This is not a Chaos Knight kit. Look at all the flesh and the tentacles added on here. That's very nice. Very cool. Big elephant club feet. Where is that? That's terrifying. Look at those teeth and that tongue. Is that? That's crazy. Very cool. And then we've got some Malifaux minis. Seen these before, but these are the finished ones. Again, very nice. This is a pretty cool dynamic piece. Very cool. Malifaux's got some really cool pieces. Absolutely. Hey, Dungeon Tales, how are you doing? Welcome on in. Thanks for being here. Hope you're doing well. We just went over some of the stuff people have been putting in our Discord to show off what they've been working on. So just went over some of those. It was very, very cool. Lots of cool, talented people continuing to work on their skills, which is huge. Super important. Let's see. Where? Did I put these? I had a specific set of skip tone paints that I wanted to try and use. I'm not sure where they went. Where did I end up putting those? Oh. I found some of them. Let's see, what else we got? We'll try these. Is that deep as well? We'll give these a shot. Let's see, let's make sure that I'm not missing anything. Do I want to do this skin tone with this hair? I don't know if I do. Okay. Alright, got some base coats down. Basic base coats. Let's see. It's getting closer to being done, but not quite. Still got plenty of work to do on her. Need to do her necklace, the armbands, and then there's still plenty of refining to do, both on her face, her hands. The hair's getting there. It's getting there. The bodysuit obviously needs more definition, dark lighting. Excuse me. But I think that's where I'm going to end for tonight. We didn't work on the Golden Demon piece at all. That's fine. We worked on the other Space Marine and we worked on Cyber Savage. I'm fine with that. Yeah, just more refining to do. So she stands up next to the other ladies just as proud and just as awesome looking. Alright, well, let's go ahead and end the YouTube stream. And then we're going to end the TikTok stream. There we go.